Hey guys, how you doing? So, BBC came out with an article about 2 weeks back, and I bookmarked it because I wanted to talk about it. But did not get the time to do so before. So here goes. The title is enough to tell you what the world hears about India. Why are India's housewives killing themselves? Well, one would think that housewives kill themselves at a greater rate than anyone else in any other state in the country, wouldn't we? The article reads, this was the year when 5,650 farmers killed themselves in the country. So the number of suicides by housewives was about 4 times those by farmers. They also comprised 47% of the total female victims. Yet the high number of homemakers killing themselves doesn't make front page news in the way farmer suicides do year after year. Okay, so firstly, I think that farmers are an essential part of our economy, and you know what, they give us our food. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure why farmers get a lot of coverage because, well, they're men and usually men's issues are rarely taken into consideration. But it might have to do with the fact that without locally produced food, we would have to import products which will increase costs and create a lot of problems for Indians. He says that suicide of women is not given any importance. Is there anything in this world in which women are not at the center? I mean, it's all about protection of women. 17,000 crore rupees from the budget was allocated to women-only schemes. And India has a National Commission for Women, who are so engrossed in creating more laws to fuck men over that they completely forgot about suicide. Isn't it their job to look into it? They're a government-funded agency, and they're also funded by the UN. But here's what they're doing. It doesn't matter if women are doing badly. Men just need to do worse. That's their motto. Reading on. In fact, more than 20,000 housewives have been killing themselves in India every year since 1997. The earliest year for which we have information compiled by the National Crime Records Bureau based on occupation of the victim. In 2009, the grim statistic peaked at 25,092 deaths. Wait, what? Seriously? And how many husbands committed suicide during those years? Wait, more husbands were killing themselves? Why didn't you tell us that, Mr. Sautik Biswas? More than 40,000 husbands have been killing themselves every year since 1997. Let's compare the statistics, shall we? 97. Married men are higher. 98. 99. 2000. 2001. And all the way up until 2014. Not a single year since your so-called year 1997 has more married women committed suicide than married men. And the grim statistics of husbands peaked at 64,098 deaths in 2013. That's more than twice the highest number of women since 1997. And do these husbands ever get enough coverage in the media? Here you are, crying about how suicides by housewives are not given attention, when you had the statistics right in front of you which show that husbands were doing it in greater numbers. What does that tell you about yourself, the media, and how much attention matters affecting men get? This is a country which has a National Commission for Women with money funded by mostly men. Again, you've got a commission to look into it. And do we have a government-funded assistance for men? No! You know, I should probably rest my case here, but I'll read the rest of the bullshit article that you've written. Now, obviously I've skipped a few parts because, hey, you don't want to read this man's bullshit either, but if you do want to, the link is in the description below. Reading on. Also, the researchers say that suicide rates among housewives are the lowest in most traditional states, where family sizes are big and extended families are common. Rates are high in states where households are closer to nuclear families like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala. Dowry-related deaths are treated as murders. Now, I'm not even getting into dowry deaths for now because that's a topic for another day. Reading on, many women face arranged marriages by force. They have dreams and aspirations, but they often do not get supportive spouses. Sometimes their parents don't support them either. They're trapped in a difficult system and social milieu, he says. Now, what? Wow, this is actually such a load of bullshit. This might have been true, I don't know, 2 decades back, in the traditional system, where men were expected to work and women were expected to look after the home. Because it did not happen in every single case. I know because my grandmother used to go to work. She worked in the post office. And this was in the 40s and 50s. My grandfather worked with the railway and my grandmother worked with the post office. What do you know? She wasn't forced to stay at home. She worked. And when they got back home together, they did all the housework together. And often, my mom, her sisters and brothers helped out as well. Now, according to the 2011 census data, it shows that there was a 116% rise in female graduates in India. And the number of engineers has increased from 4.8 lakh to 20 lakh. So you're still telling me that there's no support. I know, I see fathers right here, right in front of me, where they work their ass off so they can send their kids to school. There is not a single female child in the area that I live, which is actually a village. There's not a single female child that does not go to school. And for the spouse matter, that the spouses don't support their wives to go to work. You know what? Maybe you should change the laws and make it so that both should equally share the burden of finances and not dump it on the guy. Because if a woman works during the marriage, she's entitled to keep the money that she makes. She doesn't have to spend it for the family. And the man has to spend for all her needs. Now, if she goes out to work, the expenses are easily going to increase for the guy because he might need to hire a maid to clean the house, to cook the food, or they might have to eat outside. So that's an increasing expense for the guy. Change the laws, make it equal, and maybe it might increase or improve. The resulting lack of romantic, trusting, and affectionate relationship with your spouse can lead to such tragedies. Oh, fuck you. Do you know how many men commit suicide because of false cases? Well, technically we don't have fucking data, but it has happened year after year. Where a man signs a suicide note saying that, well, I was implicated or accused of falsely raping this woman, or I was falsely accused of dowry harassment, and I'm ending my life. And this has been going on for quite some time. Every year we can hear at least one or two cases. And these are the ones that actually make it to the mainstream media. We have no idea how many are there in villages and in remote areas where people wouldn't even go to get the information. Reading on. Next big question. Why does the media ignore the rising rate of suicides among married women when, say, farmer suicides rightly gets a lot of attention? Mr. Mayer says, on the relatively rare occasion when Indian media do cover the suicide of married women, it is almost always framed in terms of mistreatment by in-laws and harassment for dowry. This is clearly only a part of the story. Of course, this is only a part of the story. There are umpteen number of reasons why a person would commit suicide. But you know what? The whole financial burden is often. In traditional areas or traditional marriages, women don't have the financial burden. All they have to do is keep the home clean and cook the food. I'm sorry, what tensions do they have? And maybe that's why you see that suicides are less in traditional areas, or traditional states. And you know what? Women have absolutely no responsibilities in this country, only rights. No legal obligation whatsoever. A certain amount of social obligation still remains, but I'm pretty sure that that will disappear in a few years. Reading on, Kalpana Sharma, a researcher and journalist, says the lack of coverage has largely to do with the invisibility of the gender in the Indian media. This in some ways is worse than misogyny. There is a lack of engagement with issues relating to women and the media is not even aware of the problem, she says. Are you fucking kidding me? Open up a newspaper like Times of India or Indian Express or The Hindu on Facebook and I can guarantee you that you will get at least one article a day talking about how women are fucked over. And there is no other class that gets more attention than women in any matter. And this reporter is doing the same. Giving more focus to women even when there is a government organization funded by the taxpayers to cater solely to women, and even when there are more men committing suicide than women. How the fuck does this woman even get away with calling women the invisible gender when there are laws created just to protect them from feelings? I mean, fucking feelings. That's not even a crime. Hurting your feelings is not a fucking crime. It should never be. And that's what we have in India. And journalism, people, the art of catering to the most catered class in all of history. This reading on, the story of India's desperate housewives, as Mr. Mayer describes them, needs to be urgently researched and told. I looked up to see if you guys did any study on, suicide. And you did. You did a lot on suicides in India. There are a few guys who did a few studies, but none of them solely for men. But there was one study that was conducted solely for women, and it dealt with depression and suicides in women in India. So there you go. And I would also like to ask the question, why do husband suicide not get enough attention in the media, even though it is way higher than farmers and housewives put together? Has this guy ever given any attention to it? I fucking doubt it. He'll deny it even exists, even though it was right in front of his eyes, like it is for me and you, when he looked up the statistics in the National Crime Records Bureau. Women need our help is basically the cry all over the world. Well, you know what? They can go fuck themselves for all I care. Till next time, guys. Cheers.